Good morning, afternoon, and evening, everybody. My name is MiAh the King, and when I was a kid, my mother told me I could be anyone I wanted to be. Turns out, identity theft is a crime. Now then, today we're taking a look at a game just released on Steam called Ratten Reich, or Ratten Reich? I don't know how it's pronounced. A mixture of steampunk and dieselpunk world with a never-ending war between four factions. At least I think it's four. Developed by Metal Ladler Studio and published by Crytivo. Released in early access and selling for $20. Now, if things might seem a little bit weird, either with me or the quality of the recording or anything else with myself, I deeply apologize. I lost power due to a really big storm recently, and I still haven't gotten it back yet, so I'm sweating like hell. How am I recording this video then? Well, that'll just have to remain a mystery. The point is, my personal life sucks right now, and I'm trying to distract myself with the recording. So, what is this game? Well, it's pretty much what it sounds and looks like. It's a four-way war between four factions who seem to always be at war. You've got the RR, which are the rats, possibly supposed to mimic the SS from World War II. You've got the FMR, which are mice, the ERS, which are lizards, and the RD, which are monitor lizards. There's no real identifiable reference to them in the game other than the language they speak, so it's kind of hard to tell who you're supposed to be playing as while you're playing. But I know that some of them speak German and some of them speak Japanese, at least I think it was Japanese, but there is clearly some symbolism here where these factions are meant to represent certain factions during World War II. However, they did mention trench warfare, so it could also be in reference to World War I. Anyway, on to the point, it's basically just a tactical game where you control squads of infantry in the midst of this war and complete one of four missions. That's all the game has right now. And if you hear any dogs barking in the background, it's because, well, just because. So, anyway, that's the gist of the game's story, really. So, as always, let's go into the good and the bad, followed by my final thoughts, shall we? So, up first for the positives is the graphics. The art style, all of that. It's great. I mean, I just love the artistic style here, and I love the graphics. It's got great color choices, great attention to detail, great lighting effects and animations. It's all just beautiful to look at. I think I really liked the lighting choices and the attention to detail. I was not expecting it to look this good for what it is and being in early access, but I was very pleasantly surprised. Next up for the positives is just the whole sound design. I mean, just overall, this game is a wonder to listen to. From the badass title screen music, to the sound effects during battle sounding perfectly appropriate, hell, even the voice acting itself.
Rats are advancing on all fronts. The desert continent of mice is under threat. Our great General Jeeves, instead of protecting the last city of MiAh, gave the order to evacuate in order to save his daughter. Will history forgive him for such an act?
Legit, everything to listen to here sounded great. The soldiers speak in their common tongue while fighting, the explosions and gunshot sounds, the sounds of soldiers dying, the rain and other ambiance. I mean, hell, you can even hear their boot steps on the mud, all accompanied by some music that truly fits the mood and the theme of what you're currently doing in the game. 10 out of 10 on the sound design, in my opinion. The next positive point I'd like to talk about is the price tag. The price tag is so freaking legitimate. I mean, it's early access with barely any content, which we'll get into later, but it looks so good. It sounds so good, and other reasons I'll go into later, but basically, I think the price tag was really good for a game in its current state, but I have issues about that, which I'll go into later. And last but not least, I want to talk about here is the gameplay. However, the gameplay is also going to be in the negatives. But for now, in the positives, I wanted to say that the idea of this gameplay is actually really interesting. I guess I love a lot of things in this gameplay as much as of things that I don't love. Like, your units need to take cover, love it. They can get gassed, so you have to manually have them put on gas masks. They can get injured, and you need them to heal up with med kits that they carry on them. You get squads, which each guy getting individual gear as you would expect. You can form squads or control people individually and then control the squad or control the person. There's machine gun emplacements, you can take cover, you can take over. There's artillery you can take over, and the actual shooting mechanics work really well too, for the most part. But the bullets fly fast, and as does everything else, and in general, it's just got a good baseline for further development in terms of its gameplay. You can even call in reinforcements to rally points that you can take over as you progress further in each mission. But the basics of the gameplay in its current state is, here's your infantry, take them to each marker, kill all baddies, don't lose all your guys, and accomplish your objective. Rinse and repeat. It's honestly okay. Not good, but not bad, just not what I was expecting. Alright, so that's all the positives I feel worth mentioning. Now we got to go into the negatives, but before that, let me take a brief moment to shame myself with self-advertisement. It won't take long, I promise. The way YouTube works is my channel only gets more noticed and gets bigger if people actually do something involving my channel. Liking a video, commenting, subscribing, or hitting that bell all help with the interaction, thus helping the algorithm. So if you're kind enough to do any of those things I mentioned, you're helping me out a lot and I would really appreciate it. Thank you. Now then, on to the negatives. Keep in mind, the game is still in early access, and a lot of these might end up getting fixed as the game gets further into development, but I still feel like I need to mention them because that's fair. I'm talking about how the game is now, not how the game will be. So, the first negative I have is the stability. The game froze on me several times, it dropped frames on me several times, it didn't follow commands like it should have, and overall the stability made it rather hard for me to look at the game and play it uninterrupted. Eventually, the game did manage to calm down a little bit in the freezing or the frame rate dropping, but then it was doing other things, other bugs that were ruining my experience. Some of my selected soldiers in my squads weren't putting on gas masks when I had all of them selected and told them to, or ever. Like, they would never do it, so they would just die to gas. When I told my squad to move forward, a random guy, or sometimes two random guys in the squad, just wouldn't move. And these were prevalent throughout my entire playthrough, and was making it even harder for me to command and control the flow of battle. Actually caused me to lose several times. Along with your troops not moving into cover the way you told them to, or the game straight up not letting you see the cover that you want to put them in unless your mouse is in the pixel perfect place, or even when the mouse just freaking disappears on you. You see what I'm showing you right now? The mouse is just gone. No explanation, no reason, and you can see me flounder around as I desperately try to figure out how to get it back, or if I can't, how to play without it. Eventually, I just had to restart my game. It was also rotating my screen sometimes, which I guess if you hold down the click button, then it can rotate your screen, but this is the first I know about. Like, I don't know what happened here. The next negative I have is the gameplay. While the gameplay does have its own style, it's just, well, I think it needs some ironing out. For instance, vehicles kill your infantry instantly. Machine guns kill your infantry instantly. And I know what you guys are going to say. Of course they are. That's the whole point. It's realistic. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about it in a realistic way. I'm saying in an unrealistic way. I'm saying in a prolonged engagement with defenses and doing everything right, I was losing men like crazy. I mean, my troops are in cover. A tiny armored car shows up, and then dead. It shot like a machine gun and killed them all in seconds. A team behind fortified cover didn't even have enough time to throw an anti-tank grenade before all three of my squads were wiped out by this little armored car. That is ridiculous. A machine gun is a bit more understandable. Its whole point is to cut down infantry, but not only did I not hear the gun shooting or see its bullets flying, but my guys briefly walked in front of it without me knowing, and a whole squad died, with no reticule or any kind of ray showing me the gun's range or where it's looking. You know, no way to tell where the gun is or where it's aiming or whatnot. And for it to then instantly wipe out my squad, leaving me exactly 0 seconds to adapt or move out of the way, is just ridiculous. It kills way too fast, even for realism. And that's another thing. Your squads just die way too fast. I had this complaint about another game. The game has it set up so that you're always at a disadvantage with enemy troops behind cover, machine guns, artillery, armored vehicles, and can seemingly launch gas bombs from anywhere on the map. So your troops die almost instantly everywhere you go, no matter what you do. Even when I was taking my time, being methodical, and using strategies that would have worked in real life, I still ended up losing more than I ended up winning anything. It's just very unbalanced. Like, their troops take forever to die, while yours die instantly. In my opinion, there are some serious balancing issues with the gameplay. I was only able to win the tutorial mission. I lost and was unable to complete any of the others despite trying multiple times. And you could say get good all you want, but my opinion still stands, it's imbalanced. I've played more than enough games like this, and I can tell when it's just hard and difficult but still passable, or when it's just unfair and imbalanced, and this is unfair and imbalanced. The next negative I have is the user interface. It's kind of badly designed in my own personal opinion. I don't like it. It doesn't have any identifiers or tooltip bubbles, so you don't really know what you're doing or looking at. The buttons are awkward. It's kind of hard to see some of the tools when battle is going on, and despite there not being much, it still ended up looking unclear and just a little confusing. And last but not least for the negatives is the tutorial. Now the tutorial wasn't bad. At least it did, at least it had one. But the problem I have with the tutorial is that it didn't have enough information. Like, it didn't give me all the information I needed. For the most part, it was fine and decent, but for instance, it didn't tell me that you can only have 6 people in a squad. I had to figure that out for myself, which led to certain soldiers being put in a squad all by themselves, and then being left behind because I didn't know about them, because I didn't know there was a limit to the squad size, and I could go on about more stuff I had to learn on my own that the game didn't deign to inform me, but I think I made my point. The tutorial just needs to be a little bit longer, and it needs more information. Alright, so that's all I have to say negatively about the game at this time that I think were even worth mentioning. So what are my final thoughts? Well, I was really expecting more of a strategy game and not so much a tactical game, and a lot of people need to understand that there is a difference between them. However, despite it turning out to be a tactical game, I was still really interested as hell to be playing it. It's a bit unbalanced, and it's a bit buggy, and it's very unfinished, but from what I see here, the game has some serious potential. This small team of developers have really put together something interesting. The graphics are great, the sound design is great, the tactical gameplay has been done before, but it's got a unique and interesting idea behind it that I haven't seen before. I guess if you're looking for a good old strategy game, then you might want to pass on this one, but if you're looking for a tactical game, or if that just doesn't bother you, then I feel like this isn't a bad game. I suppose the biggest issue I have with it really is just how much content is missing and how buggy it is. There's only 4 missions, 3 if you don't count the tutorial. And like I said, it's got tons of bugs and it's imbalanced. So while the idea is really interesting, and there's clearly a lot of development and care built into the game, I'm just not sure if it's worth your money in its current development state. My recommendation would be, if you're really interested in the game, add it to your wish list and wait for more updates, see if they add more missions, more unit types, and stabilize its gameplay. But as it is now, I'm just not sure if it's worth your money. I mean, I know it's only $20 for a game that looks and sounds like this, which is why I was complimenting its price tag earlier, but you could play and experience all the content in this game in less than 2 hours. Granted, I was unable to complete any of the missions besides the tutorial, but I got really close to completing every single mission, because you can play them in whatever order you want, before I even hit 2 hours. So despite how interesting it might be and how much work went into it, I strongly believe that for every $5 you pay, you should get at least 1 hour of solid gameplay content. So this game should offer me at least 4 hours with this kind of price tag. And that's if I just look at this in its most basic form and take everything out. And it's not doing that. So yeah, I guess my recommendation is to put it on your wish list and keep a close eye on it. There's definitely something special here, and it's got a great foundation to turn into a really freaking cool game. But just as it is right now, it might just be better to wait and see. Alright everybody? Alright, so that's all the time I got for this video. Thanks so much for watching, with a special thanks to those of you who stuck around to the end. If you have any questions or concerns, please let me know in the comments down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I can't wait to see you all again on my next adventure. So until then, I bid you all farewell.